Okay, at this point we finished our image. It completed. I already closed out of all the screens. At this point, what we want to do is we could start working on the image if we wanted to by double clicking on the desktop area inside PixInsight, and then you could go to the registration folder, and in here there's a master folder, and then we have a master light. Normally this is what you would do. I'm going to include a calculator in the link so you can take a look at your camera and your telescope to make sure that you're not undersampled or undersampled. With my setup that I'm doing, I'm undersampled. So what I need to do is an extra step, which is called drizzling. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I'll have a link to my website, which has a pretty good breakdown and explains how the process, which will have a link to the calculator and a good video that explains all the undersampling and oversampling. When you undersample an image, you have to use Drizzle, and you also have to dither. It's extremely important. You have to do both. So the first thing you have to do is when you're acquiring your images, you need to dither. Once the dithering is completed and all your images are done and you've integrated them with the weighted batch processing, at that point you would do Drizzle. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but essentially because my images are undersampled, I have to do drizzling. So to do drizzling, what you need to do is click on the Drizzle button over here, and then you just add your files. And then in here, you want to go to the registration folder, the registered folder, and then the no filter folder. And in here, there's a bunch of XD RZ files, and what we're going to do is just add them and hit the OK button. The script is already configured, and what it's going to do is scale it. So normally my images, when I'm shooting on the ZWO, they're 3000 by 8 pixels, and once it basically doubles that. So when the image is completed, it'll be 6000 by 18 pixels. And you can scale it up higher depending on what you want to do for your own personal images and stuff like that. I find that these settings work really well with the ZWO. Again, you may not need to drizzle. Again, like I said, go to the link that's in the description, check out the information on there, and find out if your camera is being undersampled or oversampled or undersampled. Again, when I was using my DSLR, I didn't realize the whole time that I was shooting was undersampled, and I never drizzled my data. These are things that I just kept learning as I keep learning within doing astrophotography. So there's just so much to it. So what we're going to do is just start the script and hit the apply button, and it's going to run through and start the script. So I'll go ahead and catch you on the other side of this once this is completed. So at this point, the script finished, and we should have our Drizzle weights and our integration. We can just close out of the integration and our weights. So at this point, here's our final image that's been integrated. Not our final image, but it's our final image after the weighted batch processing and the drizzle's been completed. So the next thing that I do is I'll open up STF. What this is the screen transfer function. I'll unclick this little link channel so it doesn't link the channels, and then I'll do a stretch. And here's our data that we have. So this is just our first stretch. This is just an auto stretch that it does. It's not an actual completed stretch. So at this point, the image is in linear form, and there's a couple processes that we need to go through, and we'll step through those in the linear state before we do the non-linear state, where we'll do some more manipulation of the image. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to do dynamic crop. And again, like I was saying, when we drizzle that data, now our image is 6016 by 6016, unlike the default image, which is taken with the ZWO, which is the 3000 by 3008 by 3008. So in here, when I double click on it, it fills up the whole image. If you just click on it, you can drag, and it's got the little, basically like a little layover, if you will, to do the dynamic crop. What you want to do is just crop your image where you want. If you don't want to crop it, you don't have to, but if you look real close, we can kind of see where the images got stacked, and there's a little bit of different color between the two. So I like to cut that out so I don't have to deal with trying to manipulate that in post editing. So in here, I'll just kind of highlight where I like to put the image, and then essentially I'll just drag it. And I really want to just focus on the nebula. I'm not so worried about all the other things in space. Maybe a couple of the stars look cool, and just make sure that when you're cutting it, that the stars look good. As you can see, I'm cutting some of these stars in the middle because it's got like these little tiny divots, if you can see it on the screen. But that looks pretty good to me. I'm not cutting out the big stars, just the little ones. And then you just hit the check mark, and then it'll basically cut your image. At this point, the next thing that I'll usually do is fast rotation. And if you want to rotate the image, you can. You can do clockwise and counterclockwise, or you can flip it, mirror it, horizontal or vertical. I like the way that this looks right now. It may not be the way that it's shown through NASA and other places, but to me this looks good, so I'm not going to mess with the fast rotation. But essentially you can click on whatever you want. So if you wanted like a mirror, you could just click, and then you take this little arrow over here and you drag it and drop it, and then it'll just do a mirror. Again, I don't like that, so I'm just going to do a Control-Z on my keyboard to undo that, because I didn't like that. But you can choose whatever you want in here and basically just click on it, and then you just drag and drop onto the image and it makes the edit. So that's it for the initial stretch, the dynamic crop, and fast rotation.